Hello everyone. Today I wanted to show you this new shader I created. This is a very unique shader. What it basically is it's epoxy resin, and I got like unique patterns in it that emit light, and this actually is it's a little complicated, and I'm going to be going through an overview of how it works in this video. And hopefully you guys will be able to understand it. And of course the full shader will be released on my Patreon. So yeah, so that link's in the description. Yeah, so let's explain how I made this. So what we got here is this is just a cube basically, and then I scaled it down the z-axis so it's just it's flatter and it's more narrow, so it's basically like a pane of glass. And what I did is I'm using a principled shader right here, and that has a color and it's slightly blue. It kind of makes it look nicer, but that could definitely be changed if you want to. Like you could have it like be green maybe, but I'm just gonna leave it how it is. And then I mix that with the transparent, and it kind of just, and then I use the light path node. This is just makes the glass render faster. It's kind of like a trick to speed up the rendering. I could have just directly plugged this in as the surface like this, but it renders much slower, and I'd have to adjust some of the lighting and stuff because it affects the lighting. So yeah, I'm just gonna leave it how it was. And yeah, so that's for the glass. But now we got something more interesting going on, and that's our volumetric shader. So if we just view the volume and we unplug the surface, you could see we got a bunch of interesting abstract designs here that are kind of floating in space. And these are actually fully procedural volumetric shaders, all created with this. And there's a lot going on, and I'm going to try to explain it in the most understandable way possible. Yeah, so let's actually plug this one back in so it looks better. And what we got going on is we basically have, I configured a scale node so I could scale up the patterns, and if I bring that up, you could see the patterns become smaller. If I bring that down to like below 0.5, maybe like 0.25, that actually looks really cool. So it makes the patterns like bigger, and I think I'm going to go with 0.3, or actually 0.26 is what it was before, and that looked really nice. And you can see this actually does emit light, and if I turn the world brightness down, you can see it's actually casting light, which is awesome. So this shader is then controlling the scale, which goes into a multiply. So I'm multiplying it by a certain value, and then plugging that in as the scale value for each noise texture. And I got a bunch of noise textures layered on top, and then I got different coordinates basically. I got different coordinates going to each noise texture, and then I got a fourth noise texture with, again, different coordinates, and the scale is different. So you can see if I change this, or I change this one on the X and Y, the result becomes stretched in one axis. So I'm just going to leave that how it was. Yeah, so, and of course you can adjust all these settings, but you definitely want to be careful with them, some of them, because sometimes it can lead to unpredictable results. Okay, so what we got going on here basically is these shaders, which is this one going out from the noise into the first color ramp. Let's see, let's try to, these ones I don't even think I'm using, but I'm just going to leave them there in case. And this one is just making a kind of a mask, and then I'm mixing that with this one, then mixing that again with this one, but almost none with the other one, so I'm just going to leave that how it is. And most of these settings you probably don't want to change. I configured them to look nice, so you probably don't want to change any of these settings. The only setting you're going to want to really change is this one in the files. But yeah, and then what I did is I took this one, and then let's see, that's for the emission strength. So that's basically saying we're gonna use this amount of strength for the light of the volume texture. But then we also need to get the colors, and the way I did that, it's actually not too hard to understand, hopefully. So I got 4 noise textures, and then I put a color ramp in and put the color stoppers very close together with just orange in the first 2, and then multiplied them together. So 2 different designs, and orange is in random positions in each one. So both of these noise textures are using different values in the distortion too to get some more randomness. So it's just 2 different designs, same color, and then I multiplied them by 1. So I multiplied them by 100 so that they actually are over 1, which makes it emit light. And then I mixed them together by 0.5. So now this value will change how bright the individual textures are. So if I bring this down, it'll emit less light. Again, you probably don't want to change this because you'll have to change all the others to match up. So just be careful if you're changing settings like this. And then I mixed it again, but this time I had a blue one, which I multiply again by 100, and then mix the red in with the blue. And then I also believe that I took this shader, which is just white, and then I didn't really do anything with that. What I could have done actually is use the black areas of this and then multiplied that out by this to kind of break up the designs, but I didn't decide to do that. But that's definitely a setting you guys could play around with. So it kind of just makes the designs more, it cuts parts of it out basically, and if you bring it up to like most of the way, you kind of start to see what it's doing. But I generally leave that off. So yeah, that's basically a breakdown of how the shader works. Now again, I'll probably create a more comprehensive tutorial on how to do this in the future, and I'll explain. I'll make it a little. I think I can make this a little bit more simpler, but still look pretty good. Yeah, so let's see what we could do with this. So let's actually bring back in the glass. We got this, and let's just apply this to different objects to see what we can get. So I'm gonna add like Suzanne in, and where's Suzanne? Monkey. There we go. Grab it on the y-axis, scale it by, rotate it by -90. Then bring it up a little bit on the z-axis. Maybe scale it up, and something like that's pretty good. And then I'm gonna apply a subdivision. Let's apply like 3 here, shade smooth, and then I can apply that material and see what we get. So I think it's this one. Is it? Yes, it is. And right away we need to apply the scale, and you see we're already getting the texture. Actually, it looks really nice. Let's turn down the brightness of the background just so we can kind of get a better idea. And of course, if you want to change some stuff here, you could change like the scale. I'm thinking I should change it on this a little bit. So let's go with like, let's see what happens when we just start changing this here. And I'm actually going to change the world here a little bit and kind of bring the sun behind this object because it's a little too bright. So I can just take the rotation to 90, and that'll just put the sun behind here so it's not too bright, and that looks a little bit better. Yeah, that actually looks really nice. And we can always adjust the roughness of the texture of the glass, and you can see it more, it appears more clearly. So you can clearly see the designs are showing up, and it just looks like epoxy that's emitting light. It's like glow in the dark epoxy. It's really cool. Now I could bring that roughness up, but then it doesn't look as nice, so definitely want to keep that low. Could change the color of it, but overall I leave it how it is. And yeah, so one other thing you could do is, again, like adjusting these values. Let's just bring up all of these these brightness values. Let's just bring them up to like 400, and you'll see that it gets brighter. Now it's really, really bright. It's emitting a ton of light outside of the glass. You can see it, especially if we view from like here. Yeah, it looks really, really interesting material, that's for sure. Let's just put that back to 100, and let's test it on one more thing, and this time I'm going to be adding in a cube. I'll actually test it on two more objects, a cube and a sphere. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the Suzanne, and I'm going to add in a cube. Scale it up, apply the scale, and let's just add in the material. And which one is it called? 015. There we go. And right away, there's our material. And you could see it looks like emerald. It's really cool with the design showing up inside. And maybe I'll bring down the scale for this one, so like 0.2. Yeah, that looks great. Look at that. It's really, really an interesting material. Maybe 0.3. And I can always change the background so we can see this really good. So maybe we'll just bring this up a little bit. Yeah, that looks very interesting. Very interesting material. And we'll try it on one more thing, which is going to be the sphere. So I'm going to push this to the side and add in the UV sphere. Shade smooth. Let's add in subdivision. And right away the material's appearing, but we gotta change the scale. And let's get something we're happy with. There we go. Kind of like a glowing marble. Very interesting. Very cool material. Now we can change the the roughness and bring it back up if we always wanted to. Kind of give it a more fuzzy appearance, which can kind of look cool in some cases, or you can make it really clear. Yeah, so this material again will be on my Patreon. I hope kind of this overview helped you understand how I kind of created this, and I do plan to have a tutorial soon where I go into this in more detail, shaders like this, and it'll probably be a little simplified to make it easier for you guys to recreate. And yeah, gonna be releasing lots of content soon. I hope this video helps you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, and see you guys soon.